Live from Atlanta, Georgia, it's the Zach Ballinger Show, where we help you find your direction through passion and purpose. My name is Zach Ballinger. I am your host. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We really do have a special guest. Two ways you can interact with the show. We are streaming live via YouTube. So if you're out there, you want to ask questions to my career expert, pop them into the chat feature. We will make sure to get to them. Always, you can email me before the show, zach@zachballinger.com. We will make sure to ask your questions to our guests here today. Without further ado, Lorraine, thank you so much for joining the show today.
It's a pleasure being on. And I just want to thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all of the wonderful work you're doing, capturing information about careers. I know that as career coaches, we're always encouraging people to reach out, do informational interviews, and that's a really terrifying thing to do. And so I know I'm sending my clients your way going, you can just, log into the channel, YouTube, you can hear a professional in the field. And then if it sounds like something you want to do, that motivates them to pick up the phone or send that email and say, gee, I'd like to know more about that career. So thank you for all the work you're doing. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. It's been a great ride and an enjoyment for me, and everything's free. That's what I love about my career library. It's open to anybody and everybody. So, Lorraine, before we get started answering some of these questions that people have, can you tell me more about your background?
Sure. I have probably enjoyed helping people find jobs for as long as I can remember. When I was in high school, I got my first job, and then the second day I encouraged other people to apply. And so it just kind of evolved. I worked in post-secondary education in colleges and universities for a long time, but typically gravitated to a position where I could help people launch their careers, find their next jobs. And so that's just kind of been part of my DNA for as long as I can remember. And now, of course, I have a private coaching practice, helping people go through career transitions.
And how long have you been a career coach, would you say?
I hate to admit it, but probably over 30 years.
Amazing. Such great work. So you're definitely the expert today. So we'll learn a lot from you today. We did have a few questions that did come in. The first question is, talk to me about an encore career. I'm ready to retire. I'm right now, I'm in the retirement mode, but I seem to be bored now. What can I do for a new career?
Okay. First of all, I've been through that phase. So how I like to define retirement is you get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. And if you're feeling like, nothing wrong with playing golf all day, but if golf all day, catching up with all the soap operas is not what you want to do, it is a great time to launch a new career. And depending what your finances are, you get to do a career you really love rather than thinking, oh, I've got to go out and make the money. So start by thinking about what you really enjoy doing. If you wake up tomorrow morning and have a whole day free, how would you like to do it? And so for a lot of people, that encore is they've always loved being out and hiking, and suddenly they go, I can go work at a national park as a guest, as a seasonal employee, and I'll be where I want. Other people have always been drawn to maybe helping. And so great opportunities working in the nonprofit sector. So think about what you want, just like you're coming out of college, only you have the wisdom to know what you really like to do. Sit down, plan it, and then just like that college student that's getting the job, make the list, network. Hopefully Zach has a podcast on that career, but if not, you're probably at a point where you know people that are doing what you'd like to do. Call them up. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so jump on with Zoom and say, gee, I'm really thinking about moving into that area. A lot of people as an encore go into teaching. They have learned so much in their careers and they can take it back. So anyway, I'm very enthusiastic about, I have retired twice and didn't like it and went back to work. So I totally understand where your listener's coming from.
Thank you for sharing that. You talked about you're kind of an expert in these career transitions. What's the biggest things that have changed since you've done this profession 30 years ago to today?
Well, we say that the process is the same, but the tools have changed. I'll just take you back to 30 plus years ago when you typed up a resume and you went to the local copy store and you had 100 copies made, and then you sent them out by mail, and then you just sat and hoped that somebody would contact you. Now we customize that resume for every job. LinkedIn is getting to the point where it wants to be, you don't write a resume anymore, you hit your LinkedIn and automatically apply. And we can talk about that because that is happening in a lot of companies. Networking. So the resume has to be customized. The networking, 80% of jobs come through networking. That means that you're talking to somebody, getting to know somebody, not the way it was way back when. Interviewing used to always be face-to-face and then some, a screening interview on the phone. Now more and more companies are doing Zoom, and then they're using AI so that you get on the screen and you have, either a question that comes up and you videotape your answers, or there's a bot that's talking to you and you videotape. So again, not that personal contact. Again, a challenge, especially, if you're used to talking to human beings. How do you talk to a bot? How do you stay happy? How do you stay focused? And then probably the salary negotiations. People, that was kind of like a little secret. People did negotiate salaries, but now it's very openly discussed. And then onboarding. That's probably a big change. Is you used to arrive at a company and there'd be a very structured onboarding process. Now sometimes you land in a company, and sometimes it's in your bedroom with the computer you land, and suddenly you have to start working. And if you don't onboard yourself, make those connections with the folks in the company that are key decision makers, you'll find that you have a very difficult time with the job. So same process, resume, getting it out, interviewing, negotiating, onboarding. But the tools we use and the speed at which things happen is much faster.
Thank you for that. That's very good information. Next question comes in. It says, I've been a year without a job in pharmaceutical sales. That's what I've done mainly throughout my whole career. It seems like nobody will hire me, and there's definite age discrimination when they see my age and they talk to me in person. How do I overcome this and get back into a career that I like to do?
Okay. So I don't know you, so please don't be offended by anything I say, but most of the time it's, again, that networking. If you are 50 or above, probably when you first launch your career, you might have been recruited on a college campus. It was very much more that paper, look at the resume. It used to be that companies, would get 100 resumes and they go through them all. Now they can get 10,000 and they don't. They look through the resumes, the first 10 that look good, they call those folks in. If it works, great. And if not, they go to the next 10. So a couple things. You want to make sure that your resume is really focused. Again, if it's been a while since you've written a resume, you may think of it as, I've got to capture everything. Your resume should just say, this is what I can do for you, and you should hire me tomorrow. That gets you the interview. You said you've been going to interviews. Make sure that your language isn't dated. Especially if you're sitting across from somebody who's 25 or 30 and you're in your 50s, you've done things the same way for a long time. You don't want to go, well, when I started, we had the case, and when I started. You want to be current. You want to be talking to that person as if they're a peer. And that may mean if you have been hanging out with a lot of 50-year-olds, you need to drop into YouTube something. You need to see what those young managers are learning and thinking. Again, I once had a client who was 81, and I was helping him interview for jobs. And I got this call. And he says, I really need to talk to you. And I thought, oh, maybe we've just hit the upper boundary. There's just, maybe 81 is too old. And he called and he says, I have 2 offers and I don't know which one to take. So it was his mindset at 81. He just knew he had so much left to give. And, he went out and just shared, and he could have that conversation with the 25-year-old, talking about, what was actually going on, what was current, what was the newest thing, what were the newest issues in his field. And so pharmaceutical sales is tough. But the thing you have going is that you have experience, and you want to, you don't want to say, oh, gee, I've been doing this for 20 years, but you want to say, 90% of the time when I walk into a doctor's office, I leave with an order. Those are the kinds of things that, I don't care how old you are, if you can do that for me, I want to hire you.
Okay. Such great advice. And I love the thing that you said too, and avoid these sayings that get so ingrained. Well, I've always done it this way, and this is how it's going to, I've done it for this way for 30 years. People want to hear what you've learned now, and are you willing to change?
Right.
And so, even for some of the people that may feel like they're older, what new classes have you learned? What new technology? What, like you said, are you connecting with LinkedIn? Are you using Zoom? Are you using YouTube? Are you willing to change? I
Mhm.
think that's a lot of it too, is your willingness to change.
Yeah.
And then one example I had is I had an older individual that reached out to me. I had no idea who he was. And, obviously has not been using LinkedIn that long, but connected with me and said, "Hey, can you get me a job?" And that's not really how it works. And
Mm-mm.
so I felt sorry for him, because if he just simply asked me, "Hey, is there any tips that I should do to begin my job search?" Then we could say, this is not how you use LinkedIn. LinkedIn's designed to network, and you got to gain that trust, that relationship, demonstrate with them, build that network to where they feel comfortable offering you up to the hiring manager. Because the last thing, Lorraine, somebody wants to do is say, if they're at a major corporation, they say, "Well, you should hire Lorraine." "Oh, how do you know her?" "Well, she just sent me a message on LinkedIn."
Right. And I'm not sure exactly what the person said, but you never ask somebody for a job, because if you just go, "Oh my goodness, I don't have any jobs in my pocket," you want to introduce something like, "I am thinking about, starting a new career in pharmaceuticals. I noticed on LinkedIn that, you've been in the business for 15 years. Would you have a few minutes just to share with me some information?" And then that builds the relationship, and they get excited about you, and then they go, "Wow, I think you'd be great for my company." So even though we're in a world that's based on social media and all of that, it still comes down to that personal relationship. And that's something that we sometimes forget when we go, "Oh, I can hit a button and I can apply for a job, or I can post something on LinkedIn and 2,000 people are going to watch me." When you start to recommend somebody for a job, it's based on a personal relationship.
Had a student the other day that I was working with for help, and he did the same. He did what you just said. It wasn't even in. It was just a sales career right out of college, and of course, I took the time to talk to him. And at the end of the conversation, I was so impressed. He said, "Now, is there anything I can do for you?"
Yeah, absolutely.
And just that right there, I was like, "Well, actually, you can. I'm doing this career library. I'd love for you to promote it among your peers, to let them know, get the word out." And he said, "Absolutely." And he sent me a handwritten thank you card in the mail. Now, how rare is that these days?
And that is a perfect example for what you should do at the end of the networking. How can I help you? Is there something I can share with you? And even if you're that college student or that person's unemployed for 2 years, you came up with something that was really valuable to you and yet very easy for the young man to do. And the thank you note, if you have somebody's personal address, send the handwritten note. If you don't, make sure it's a well worded email. So we need to thank people for when they give us our time, because that's very valuable.
And follow up with people. It's not a one and done situation. "Okay, I've talked to you 15 minutes. All right." And I'll do that. And I haven't even heard from the person in 3 years. And it'll pop up on LinkedIn, and I'll say, "Congratulations." And they'll say, "Thanks." I'll say, "Did you ever get a job?" Or, "Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm working in this." And so you should keep that connection no matter what you do, and follow up. And there's ways on LinkedIn you can engage. Happy anniversary, happy birthday. "Hey, just wanted to check in. How's everything going?" Maybe a 3 or 4 month check in. Um, but we often almost network once and never go back to it. Do you
Right.
find your clients in the same situation?
Well, actually, what I suggest and kind of check in with them is that the people you network are your cheerleaders. They're the folks, if you're thinking about an athletic activity, they're the ones that are in the stands going, "Go, go, 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 make it, you can make it." You owe it to them to let them know you made the touchdown or hit the home run or whatever. And so I encourage people to actually keep a list of their networking contacts and go back and systematically thank them. In other words, somebody would refer that you would make the first contact, you'd refer them to somebody else. That is like a road that keeps going. Somebody needs to keep track of that and come all the way back. And I suggest people do it every couple of weeks or month, depending what's comfortable to take. "Zach, I want to let you know you referred me to B, who referred me to C, and now I'm interviewing. Zach, thanks for starting that chain reaction. And that's really what your networking people are doing. They're starting sort of a chain reaction, but you need to go back to the beginning and say, thank you. And gee, I just got a new job. Zach, if there's anything I can do, let me know, because you were so helpful getting this process started.
Absolutely. Um, the next question comes in. What advice do you give college students just entering in college for career advice?
Okay. And I was in post-secondary education for a long time, and I still keep connected. There is right now, I think, this push to get a college education that trains you for a job. I say get a college education so that you can explore and develop your critical thinking and learning skills. Now, if you're planning to be a doctor, yes, you're going to have to take OCHIM and all that, but you can be an English major if that's your passion. If you're going to go into business, you probably want to, you'll do the accounting and stuff, but also take the classes that make you a well-rounded individual. So enter college with an open mind of, I'm going to learn, I'm going to absorb information, and recognize the fact that about 50% of all freshmen change their mind by their sophomore year, that when what they really want to do. And if you've been open and listened, that change is easy. If you've been thinking, oh, I'm going to be an accountant, that's it. And after the first year of math, you go, I don't like this. If you haven't been open, then you go, I'm lost. Those are the folks that drop out versus those that go, well, I'm going to just try something different.
It's a great point, great advice. And the key takeaway I tell high school seniors and college freshmen is get your butts into that career service center immediately.
Absolutely.
Those are trained coaches, and guess where hiring managers go when they want to hire somebody? A career service center. And again, like Lorraine mentioned, this isn't a one-stop shop where you get your resume done and you're out the door. Network with those people. Follow up every 3-4 months. Say, hey, is there anything I should be working on now? Any internship ideas? And you'll begin building relationships with them. They'll trust you. And guess what? Those jobs that come through, once you identify with them, they're going to recommend you because they have known you since a freshman, that you've been coming in there steadily, wanting to learn more and hungry for more.
I want to
Go ahead.
reinforce what you said, is because having worked on the college campus, one of the biggest complaints of people in the career center is they don't come to see us. They don't, until a week before they graduate, and they come in, I need a job, and they go like, who are you? Where's the resume? You've missed all college fairs, on whether they're virtual or on site, are an amazing opportunity for college students. Don't miss those career fairs, and don't think, oh, the company that I really want to work for isn't there. Go and talk to representatives. Even if you're just practicing your communication skills, get into those college fairs, have that resume done, and take the classes that they offer. I mean, career centers, those folks want you to be successful. They are really part of your cheerleading team. So make sure you let them cheer for you.
100% agree, and I agree. And I was that student that waited to the last day senior year, brought them my resume, and said, "Okay, go ahead and place me in a job." And that is not how that works. So I had to learn it the hard way. Last question here on this sheet for you is: when is the right time in my career to hire a career coach?
If you find yourself hating your job, in other words, you're waking up every morning, you've got a pit in the bottom of your stomach, but you're kind of afraid to make a change, your career coach can help you identify, and I do this a lot, is it your working situation? Can we fix that before you leave? Or did you just wind up in a job that you really don't like? And then do we need to explore other career possibilities? So if work is stagnating or really upsetting you, it's a great time to reach out to a career coach, because they can help you talk through that process of what you really want to do and how you want to do it.
And for me, I think it's such a ROI on your investment. I talk about it in my new book that just got published, is that, career coaching, if somebody can take you, first of all, to a job that you love, to first you hate it and now you love it, your health gets better. So they've improved your health, your well-being, your emotional, physical health. And number two, if your salary goes up even 5,000-10,000 a year, that investment paid for itself tenfold. And so it might be, that's the barrier that I get from people. I don't do one-on-one career coaching, but some people say, well, Zach, it's expensive. There's 5 or 6 times they want me to come back. But if you think about the gravity about that amount of money, it's so worth the investment, in my opinion. Do you have clients kind of skittish about, the price or anything like that?
Well, usually by the time they come to me, they've kind of worked that out. Like, is it like stop? I work with a lot of people who've been out there looking for 12 months and they go, oh, I need help. I want to reinforce the health thing because we spend so much time on the job. And yes, it's hard work. But if you're coming home exhausted and cranky and you're impacting your relationships with your family, that's a good sign that you're not in the right place. And, again, you're upset, you upset your family. If you have children, they're seeing somebody who associates work with making it miserable and unhappy. And so it's not just for you, but it's for all the people around you to really enjoy your job. It's okay to get tired on your job, but not to resent having to go.
And it's okay if you don't like it. Admit it. You don't
Absolutely.
like it.
Yes.
But what's your game plan to turn the situation around? Because so many times I've met people, I hate it, I loathe it, I can't stand it. Okay, well, what are you doing to change it? Nothing. I'll be here about 20 more years. No, that's not the plan. The plan needs to be, what action items we going to move you from this, out of this? And so that's where you can see my patience is very thin. So that's why I don't do a lot of the one-on-one. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining the show. This has been so helpful. Now, let's say somebody's out there listening and they say, hey, it's time. I got to hire a career coach. I would like to work with Lorraine. How do they find you?
They go to my website, LorraineBeaman.com. It will tell you all about my services. It will connect you. I have the same passion as Zach. I want everybody to be happy in their jobs. And so I have a lot of free offers. I do have a book that I just got published, which is Career Start, and it's practical advice for folks who have been laid off. If you've been laid off, gone through that trauma, that's kind of a different set of issues. I work with people one-on-one, but I felt so passionately about it, I did publish the book. I do a podcast, Career Central, where I bring on people who are career coaches to share. And so reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I try to be everywhere I can be because I really want people to, that's my mission, is to have people understand they are in control of their careers. Your boss owns your job. You own your career. You get to take your career wherever you want. And one of the issues you were saying about, what are you doing? There are people who are in a job that they have to stay in, but we can try and make it more pleasant. There's probably ways that we can, if it's having problems with the coworker, we can work on that, having problems with the boss, or just helping you change your mindset when you come into work and how you see the work that you're doing. So anyway, I'm happy to connect with any of your listeners anytime.
Yeah, one more time, the website
is Lorraine Beaman. And if you're listening and not seeing, Beaman is spelled B-A-Man. My husband told me that the day I met him, and I thought, I'm a kind of a women's liver. Am I going to deal with that? But anyway, my last name is Beaman, B-A-Man. So it's LorraineBeaman.com is my website. And Career Central is my podcast. And I'm hoping I can talk you into coming over on my podcast. So
it won't be a hard sell. Well, Lorraine, thank you so much for joining the show. Again, very helpful information. I think this is very motivating as well for people out there that might be in transition. So check out Lorraine and the work you've done. Thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.